Let's talk about a US crisis. The border crisis? No, not that crisis. Oh, okay, the opioid crisis. No, not that crisis either. The Game of Thrones ending forever in 38 days crisis? Ugh, yeah, that really sucks. But no, not that. Okay, so there's a lot of crises happening right now. Crises? Crisi? Crism? But today, let's talk about the one that isn't getting as much coverage, the affordable housing crisis. And I'm not talking affordable housing crisis like, bro, I'll never be able to buy in San Francisco with all these IPOs. I'm talking about how no state or city in the entire country has an adequate supply of housing for the extremely low-income housing population. Not one. In other words, in the US right now, for every 100 of the lowest earning renter households, there are only 37 available and affordable rental units. What happens to the other 63? Well, if they're not homeless, it means that they're renting places they can't afford. About half of all renters in the US are spending more than 30% of their income on rent. 8 million of those folks are spending more than half of their income on housing. That's like only being able to afford Vermont Avenue, but being forced to pay boardwalk prices. What does this look like in non-monopoly terms? How about a word problem? Let's take a family of 4. For irony's sake, let's call them the Joneses, since no one is trying to keep up with them. If the Joneses' net monthly income is $1,839 and they pay fair market rent for an average 2-bedroom apartment, how much does that leave them for the rest of the month? If you got $690, you would be correct. Yeah, $690 to pay for food, transportation, healthcare, clothes for growing kids, phone bills, you know, all the stuff that comes before your shopping and concert ticket budget. So with only $690, this leaves the Joneses one unexpected financial cost away from not being able to make rent. Kids can't get sick, car can't break down, no one is getting a root canal, and their coworkers better get used to getting sick because they definitely cannot miss a day of work. Because if the Joneses are short on rent, depending on their local tenant protections, they could face eviction and even homelessness. Since whenever we talk about poverty, there's always assumption on who the poor are and how hard they're working, let's take a look at who makes up the extremely low-income renters. Almost half are disabled or seniors. And of the 39% who can work, the vast majority of them have jobs. So yeah, work harder? Why is this happening? It's simple math, really. Between 1960 and 2014, the median renter's income has grown by 5%. Inflation-adjusted rent increased by 64%. As you might have guessed, this administration is only making things worse. Ben Carson's latest budget suggests slashing funding for HUD by more than 16%. Oh, and adding a work requirement to the existing programs, because seniors are employees in high demand. So what would help? Basically a massive investment in federal affordable housing programs that target the lowest income renters? Similar to what Elizabeth Warren proposed, which calls for $450 billion to be invested over a decade to create and preserve affordable housing. Another idea proposed by 2 other 2020 candidates is to grant renters a credit for any rent costs above 30% of their annual income. But there is one policy that could be implemented quickly, deployed at the city, state, or even national level, and costs the government next to nothing. It also disproportionately benefits the most at-risk renters and is the most immediate and effective way to stop displacement and gentrification at scale.
Rent control.
What the hell? Rent control. If we had national rent control, 42 million households could be stabilized.
Total stabilization.
And it's something that we don't have to wait for Congress to do.
Eating congressmen for breakfast.
Okay, calm down. While certain cities in California, Maryland, New Jersey, New York have already had rent control and rent stabilization policies on the books, Oregon just became the first state to implement rent control. Colorado, Illinois, and Washington are considering similar statewide measures. On the other hand, 37 states currently prohibit or ban rent control outright, so not everyone's a fan. But while we wait for the federal government to figure its priorities out, rent stabilization is something to consider, learn about, and maybe even lobby for in your own community, in order to help some of the most vulnerable people have a place to live. I'm Kristin Brey, and thanks for watching Below the Fold. Leave me a comment to let me know what you thought of this episode. What did I miss? What did you learn? As always, I welcome feedback from those who disagree. You can catch a new episode on Thursdays by subscribing to my YouTube channel, my social media @KristinBrey, or at www.belowthefold.co.